I just want to jump in real quick to say a warm welcome to everyone who has joined us for the webinar today. I'm super excited. This is the first episode of a webinar series that we call Company Advertising, the Cheat Code, How and When to Use It. I won't take up much of your time since I have two awesome colleagues that will make sure that this webinar will be as great as it could be. Just a heads up that I'm the one monitoring the webinar, and if you have any questions during the session, just send them in and we will be able to collect them all and try to answer them in the Q&A section of the webinar. And yeah, I almost forgot. My name is Pernilla Valkin, and I'm the marketing manager at InSync. And with that said, I hand over to my colleagues, Rasmus and Krickan. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Pernilla. And again, welcome to everyone listening in. It's great fun to have these webinars. And as Pernilla mentioned, this is the first episode in a series that we're planning to host, focusing on sort of discussing and highlighting how our customers use our platform and the new products and features that we release into our platform, so we can share how to make the best use of those for everyone involved in sort of making use of our product and our services, which is great fun. Pernilla, you can skip to next. Thank you. So this is the thing or the topics that we will discuss during this session. I'm not going to read it to you. I think they are sort of pretty clear by themselves. And you can actually skip to the next, and we can introduce ourselves before we get started. Christopher, would you like the honors to start presenting yourself?
Definitely. Thank you, Rasmus, and thank you, Pernilla. Good to see all of you that are listening into to this first episode of the series. I am Christopher Strandell. I'm very excited to be here and sharing some learnings from the platform. I work as an advisor, account executive, project manager within InSync. So super pumped to talk to you today. Rasmus, who are you?
And my name is Rasmus Fredegren. I work with product development at InSync. Me and Christopher, or Krickan as we call him sometimes, have been working together for more than 10 years, I think it's now. And it's super exciting to have these webinars with you and the rest of the team.
It's our first webinar together, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, actually.
It's about time.
Yeah, exactly. So we can jump to the next and sort of why we are sort of starting this series right now is that we launched a new sort of product addition to our platform quite recently, which is called segment advertising, which basically enables users and customers to start advertising towards sort of bigger audiences or larger sort of groups of your targets, hence the name segment advertising. And we wanted to share sort of the first of an initial highlight, sort of key learnings or sort of how our users work with this product in the platform. And the main theme with the use of that new product is basically to create demand, which is slightly sort of diverging from what we have sort of started out within working with in the platform, where we have been highly specific when we target specific companies. And now we are sort of leaning into more sort of creating that demand, which might be a bit more sort of lean towards demand generation, which I'm pretty sure that all of you know, but for the sake of it, I'm going to quickly describe what demand gen is. And then we can sort of go on in talking about how our customers use our new product for creating that demand.
Rasmus, before you explain demand generation, I just wanted to mention that obviously we have a big focus on the other kind of angle in which we have always operated, supporting prioritized accounts and doing that company advertising. But I think this is super exciting with the new addition of segment advertising, which has been frequently asked and requested by a lot of our clients. So it's very exciting to have this launched and to already have many different clients that are using it in different ways that we will also explore today. But back to demand gen.
Yes, exactly. And I would also like to add that it's super interesting to also see and see sort of the behavior in the platform when it comes to interacting with this product, but also getting that feedback from customers. And as you mentioned, Christopher, that it's been frequently asked for, but something that we haven't really focused on it or sort of understood before how we would introduce that type of solution into our platform in a way that aligns with sort of our vision. But here we are, and sort of creating that demand or sort of focusing on creating awareness and interest in a company's products or services, and also to drive that sort of long-term customer engagement. That is basically the essence of it. And sometimes what we think or sort of what we're trying to push is not maybe only capturing demand, but also trying to create it or generating it, even though it says in the name generation. So sometimes it can be leaned towards more capturing it than actually creating that. And Christopher really wanted me to highlight this, and I promised him to not forget about it. So, but what we frequently sort of are out there and reading the research and trying to be sort of on top what's happening in the market. And the LinkedIn B2B Institute, they shared some research a while ago where it's extremely clear in that research, and I'm sure Christopher knows it by heart by now, but that in even before purchasing processes begins, this research shows that almost the entire buying group already knows about the
brand.
sort of the brand and the company that they then later end up buying from, which really sort of put that, if we put that into perspective, that when you're trying to go to generating that demand or going for sort of cold companies, new logos, and you aren't a brand that is known, it could be a specific industry or within a specific market or for a specific product or sort of offering, it's really tricky to sort of get through the noise and establish yourself as an actual option. And with that, I think we can jump to the next and start to sort of going into the different customer cases.
I have to jump in a little bit on the research, which we can definitely link to, or if you reach out to me separately. I've been reading this many different times, but I think just it's so interesting that in this B2B environment, like we tend to go with what feels safe and familiar, and like Rasmus pointed out that basically all decision makers knew about this brand that they ended up with towards the end. And this study also talks a lot about the differences between what they call target buyers and hidden buyers. And they really stress the importance to reach and influence those hidden buyers. So those are hidden. They will not be on your website. You're not going to meet them. It's difficult to identify them. But what's important here is that in the decision-making dynamic, they represent half of the decision. So they are just as important as the people that you meet. And unless the hidden buyers know about your brand, it's very unlikely that you will end up winning that deal. So it's definitely worth considering. How can we ensure that we feel, safe and familiar to them, and not just those maybe key personas that you tend to talk to, but to more people involved, particularly in larger B2B deals where we know that there's a lot of people influencing the decision. Good. Then I got that out.
I think that was a great addition, and we actually promised Pernilla to not go into too much details into this, because we tend to be a bit too enthusiastic when discussing this.
Yeah.
But let's jump into the customer cases and share sort of the first learnings about how our customers work with this new addition.
So we have 3 different cases, all of which I'm working together with these companies, so I kind of know them by heart, which is good. And the idea here is to provide some inspiration in terms of how you can operate potentially more top of funnel to create that demand awareness, make your brand known, visible, and stand out to your audience. And this case is a company in the kind of software sector. You can think CRM. They have identified a specific segment, which is really important and interesting for them. In this segment, there's 150 companies that are interesting to them. And you can see here 300 employees is pretty much the company that is behind this customer case. So they have these 150 companies, they're in one sector, and what they are doing through the platform is they are advertising specifically to these 150 companies. Since they know the industry in which they operate, they have also produced an ad which is 100% tailored to this industry, so we can create that relevancy to them. And on top of the proactive advertising, making sure that they are a known brand, familiar brand, and creating that relevancy, they also have a telemarketing agency on top, which is calling them to convert. They are also looking at, through our platform, the intent from these companies, so they can immediately see when any of these 150 companies are actually coming to them and checking them out, what they are reading on the website, how long they are staying, etc., so that they can evaluate the level of intent and interest. And for those companies, they have salespeople ready to act and to start calling them. Now, what's interesting here is that they have done this exercise, not including the advertising part, but they have done the telemarketing piece for segments before, so towards industries. They very well know the conversion rate that they can expect. Now that they have introduced the advertising layer on top to this list, they have actually seen a conversion increase of 78%. So even though this feature in our platform is quite new, it's very, very fun to see this type of success already from this exercise.
Could you also just share, the first thing is that it's super exciting to see that sort of this new addition to the platform brings sort of effect instantly to our customers using it. But could you also share something regarding sort of the purpose or the goal of this initiatives? Are these companies like, is it a completely new industry, or are they sort of entering a new market, or what's sort of behind that segment?
Yeah, it's not a new industry, but so they do have cases from the industry. They have like industry pages as well on the website. So it's definitely an industry that they are acquainted to, but where they can make a lot of extra process essentially. So the idea is to really make them known and famous industry expert within that segment. And then of course, so that's the long-term goal. And then in short term, of course, they want to convert, get those meetings and build that pipeline.
Great. And I think we got a question regarding what we show, and I think the answer to that is yes, this is sort of a summary of sort of this specific customer case.
It is a very summarized version, since it's the product in itself is quite new to the platform, so we haven't had time to provide a proper case. So it's just to kind of inspire a little bit on different use cases and how you can use it, and maybe a little bit what to expect.
But I guess we can jump to the next use case or customer case and dig into that.
Yes, so this case is slightly different. So if we look at the previous company, which was 300 employees, this is a much smaller company, approximately 25 employees. They're operating in the IT security space. And what I would say about this company is that they are definitely lacking resources in terms of both budget and time. So they have to operate with a great level of smartness and efficiency. So when they realized that they could actually select 100 hand-picked companies that they know they have a good fit for, but they don't really have the resources or time to actually reach out and do that qualitative outreach to them, they were just thrilled to understand that they could activate advertising specifically to those companies in just 1 or 2 hours from not having anything. And it's a mixed audience within these 100 accounts. As I said, they are hand-picked, so it's different industries, but they know that they do have a good fit here. And this company, as I said, is quite small, so they are completely unknown in the market, and they do realize that if they are to break through, they have to make themselves known and top of mind, and they need to feel like a safe choice to work with, since it's also related to security processes, so it needs to feel safe. So what they are also doing then, they don't have telemarketing because they don't have that type of extra engine in terms of budget, but what they are doing is they are leveraging our platform to its fullest. So not only are they advertising specifically to these 100 companies, they are also adding a pretty cool feature in the platform called landing zones, which essentially is like a pop-up that appears on your website, but only to the companies that you select. So in this case, you have these 100 companies that you're targeting with advertising. And when they are coming to your website, of course, if they are clicking on the ads, you're driving them to the pages where you want them to land. But we also know a lot of people tend not to click on ads, but they might be Googling their way to your website to read more. And then we can serve this pop-up only to them and make them super relevant specifically for this audience. And on top of that, they, of course, monitor the website to understand which companies of these 100 are actually looking at us. And those companies we can prioritize our time to reach out to, but we don't have time to reach out to all. So I think it's a very smart and efficient way to nurture this list of companies, and with a quite small budget as well. So they're getting a lot from doing quite little, I would say.
And one thing I would like to add to this, as we are sort of releasing new features and products into our platform, we try to be quite involved with customers. So we're testing and trying it out together. And one thing I particularly find interesting with this case is that they have been trying to sort of advertise through LinkedIn and trying to reach that audience. And what they basically stumbled upon two things. One thing was that the roles that they are sort of trying to get engaged with basically aren't that really active on LinkedIn. So they had troubles reaching those individuals basically, that they need to get that first meeting or get the foot into the door. And the second thing was that when they was trying to reach a variety of companies with that mixed audience, they saw on LinkedIn, and that's something that we have been struggling with as well previously in the past, is that those bigger companies on that list tend to get all of the volume in your advertising activity, which is not really the effect that you're after. So what we have built into that product is basically that you can decide by yourself how you want that budget to be distributed. You can spread that evenly across your entire list and making sure that you reach all of those companies that are within that segment.
Yeah, that was definitely key for this customer, I would say.
I think we're sort of lagging slightly behind the schedule, so I think we can jump to the next customer case. So we have time for the questions later on as well.
I can just add that I talked to the client number 2 just a couple of days ago, so I just happen to know that they are actually in conversations with some of these companies as well. So we're off to a good start, but it is very early still, I should say. Now, this case is very different because if you are familiar with InSync from before in any way, it's probably a lot related to advertising and creating that visibility to selected companies. This case, there's no advertising at all, but they are just using the benefits and the strength of the platform in itself to capture demand. So obviously they are not doing anything proactively to these companies through the platform, but they are listening to these companies. And I know that they are doing other types of activities and outreaches, but how they are using our platform, and this is a super small company, 10 employees, but they have a list of companies, 500, included in their ICP. So what they want to know is, as soon as anyone from this list actually comes to the website, they want to know about it. They want to know what they are doing and how long they're staying and what they are reading, which they're getting from the platform. And they are also adding the landing zone on top. And these 500 companies, they are from 3 different industries. So they have created 3 different landing zones. So when manufacturing companies are coming to the website, they have a pop-up with a manufacturing message only to the manufacturing accounts. And then similarly for retail and for public sector. So that they can very, very easily and quickly and very cheaply as well create that relevancy and also guide them to the pages where they can read more, which makes sense to them. So from this exercise, they can quickly see which companies they should be focusing on and doing that outreach to. And 250 euros a month is pretty neat to get all of that, I think.
That sounds really interesting. Do you know, or can you give an examples on sort of that outreach? Is that run through sales or marketing or both, or what sort of how are they approaching that when they get those signals?
Yeah, they don't have a lot of salespeople, I should say, but yes, when they do see proper signals, then they are definitely reaching out through sales to those organizations. But since the outreach is quite limited, it's not like they are just pouring their way into the website. But as soon as that happens, they want to have that timing and do that outreach to them. But I know that they are doing some activities from marketing, which is more related to kind of outreach in terms of emails, etc. But they have to be very careful about the investments.
And this is a question that we sort of tend to get or usually get. So when they see those proper signals from specific companies and sales are sort of supposed to act on it, as we don't work with sort of personal data points, what would you say? How do the sales reps sort of engage with that company? Who do they call if they don't get sort of who's interested?
Yeah, I think that's a super good question, and I think this is where you probably see the better salespeople and the not so good salespeople in a sense. If I'm being a bit harsh, but I mean, throughout history, I think we've all, that operate in this sense, we've heard from salespeople like, yes, I can see that this company is interested, but who should I call? I need a name and I need a number for me to do anything, which I think is horrible. Like, if you work in sales and you can see that this company is showing intent, they are interested in your products and your services now, it's your job to reach out. You probably know what key personas you're dealing with. Look them up on LinkedIn, visit their profiles, reach out to them. It's your job to find out. If they are showing intent, you have to reach out. If not, you cannot complain that maybe because they're going to look at your competitors as well. And if they are quicker, then they have an advantage. First one in tends to get the deal, assuming that all are equally famous and trusted.
Great. So basically, then just contact them, and
Yes.
preferably with the right persona that you know that you're sort of usually are in contact with when sort of trying to get that deal.
Don't sit and wait for things to
Great.
happen.
I see that we are sort of not really on time, but slightly after the schedule. But if we jump to the next slide then.
So if you target really large brands, is there some way of targeting high-level managers? What's your quick answer, Rasmus?
My quick answer
And
is
not
that,
the entire organization. She just added now.
Yeah. No. So with the technique that we're using, that's not possible. We are quite keen on sort of or sort of how our technique is sort of working is that the users that we are targeting is solely sort of how we attribute that is that it's solely based on the company name, basically, that they are included in that network. And we don't need then the user to give consent for us being able to advertise towards that. If you would go upper towards sort of specific personas or roles, you would need that given consent to be able to target that, because you would limit the audiences that much, basically. And that is quite tricky to do in a way that is compliant with GDPR if you're sort of acting within Europe. And that's why it's not really possible if you don't have that given consent. That's why you can, for instance, in HubSpot do it, because then you have captured those emails, for instance.
But essentially, I would say that this segment advertising is kind of mostly leveraged so far from clients that in a very easy and quick way ensure visibility to a list of organizations. And it's been mainly used as a top of funnel activity so that they can secure visibility and awareness to that industry or other types of builds in a very easy way.
Yeah, I think we're slightly over time, but we got one more question, which I'm extremely glad that we got. So I would like us to answer that prior for us to end the webinar. But to everyone that needs to leave, super glad that you joined, and then we'll answer this. So the question is, wouldn't the ad spend budget be spread quite thin with a monthly spend of 1,000 euros for 100 companies? Do you want to answer that, Christopher, or should I?
I was just surprised because I couldn't see that question on my end. But yeah, go ahead, Rasmus.
Yeah, so that can absolutely be the case. When you are sort of targeting, what we usually have been doing in our platform basically is that we are targeting specific companies, and the purpose of that specific company targeting or one-to-one company targeting is basically to support those deals and making sure that that process is sort of moving forward. This segment advertising, where you can spend it sort of more thinly if you want, it basically has a different purpose than that supporting the deal or prioritizing single accounts or companies. So in one way, yes, it could absolutely be spread quite thinly across those companies. But on the other end, the purpose is not to sort of closing that deal or generating something from that targeting right now or in sort of that short time frame. It's more of a longer term activity that you're running it.
I would just add that, of course, it's definitely worth considering the budget to the company list as well. In the first case, we had 2,500 euros to 150 companies, and then in the second, we had 1,000 euros to 100 companies. And you can, of course, incorporate the size of the organizations and deal value and a lot of different things. But I think it's a very good question, and it's definitely something to consider it when setting this up. And we're happy to bounce back and forth as well to find the best possible budget for the outcome that you want to have, the expectations, and of course also the budget capabilities that you have.
Yeah, now I'm getting hand signals from Pernilla here that we need to wrap this up. We're 4 minutes over time, but thank you so much for joining. And we have some codes here. What do you call it?
QR.
That you can scan. Yeah, QR codes. Feel free to book a demo. That's something that we really enjoy, hosting those demo sessions. I know Christian is one of the individuals hosting those, or just basically try to start a free trial. The trial is basically 3 months, get everything, and you only pay for the advertising that you're sort of setting up. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.